4. The Great Emptiness. Be knowingly the open, empty presence of awareness, in which all experience appears, with which it is known, and out of which it is made. Allow your eyes to open and just let your attention rest on whatever objects appear. Understand that when we open our eyes, all that changes is that seeing appears. Now, slowly trace the experience of seeing back to its source. So we withdraw the focus of our attention from the seen object and, as it were, travel backwards to the source of seeing, to the place from which seeing proceeds. Notice that as we approach the source of seeing, we don't arrive at something called a body. We cannot see or even experience the body as it is normally conceived. All that is known of the body is a flow of sensations and a few perceptions. What do we really find at the source of seeing? Where does the experience of seeing come from? Don't think about this. If we are experiencing seeing, we must be experiencing that from which it proceeds. All we find is an openness, an emptiness there. It is from this emptiness that seeing proceeds. It is not proceeding from a body. If we trace the experience of seeing back to something that we previously considered to be our eyes, we don't find any object there called eyes. We just find an openness, an emptiness there. The absence of an object. It is this emptiness that allows the objects that we see to come into existence. If this openness was full of anything other than emptiness, there would be no room for the fullness of the object within it. This emptiness is not only an absence of objects, it is also an absence of space. Space is part of the seen. Seeing does not take place in space. Seeing proceeds from and takes place in an openness, an emptiness that has no finite qualities. As such, it is infinite. It is infinity itself. Right here, at the heart of our experience, the placeless place from which seeing proceeds is itself infinity. This placeless place is not in space. Space proceeds out of it. In fact, space doesn't proceed out of it. Space appears within it. It is as if there were a doorway in the back of the mind. Seeing proceeds out of that doorway towards the object. If we follow the experience of seeing in the other direction, backwards, as it were, towards its source, we go through that doorway into infinity. That is the heart of ourself, the dimensionless, objectless, placeless place from which seeing proceeds. Where we previously thought we would find a body, we now find this dimensionless emptiness. Now, allow a thought or a series of thoughts to arise. The content of the thoughts doesn't matter. And to begin with your attention, follow the thoughts towards the objects to which they refer. And now, instead of following the thought in the direction of the object to which it refers, trace the thought back in the other direction. Follow the thought in the other direction towards the place from which it proceeds. Notice that when we arrive at the place from which thought proceeds, we don't find something called a mind or a brain. We arrive at a great openness, an emptiness, out of which the thought proceeds, and into which it returns when it comes to an end. It is as if there were a second doorway in the back of the mind, out of which thought proceeds and through which it returns. Behind that doorway is a vast emptiness. That emptiness is not in time. Time comes into apparent existence with the appearance of thought. That vast emptiness is itself ever present or eternal. These two doorways the one out of which perception proceeds, and the other from which thought proceeds, open onto the same dimensionless, empty space. This emptiness is called infinity in reference to perception. It is called eternity in reference to thought. Eternity and infinity are the two names for the same emptiness from which all thought and perception proceed, and to which they return when they come to an end. This emptiness doesn't appear in time or space. Time and space, plus the thoughts and objects that they contain, proceed out of it and dissolve back into it. Allow your eyes to close and let the current sensation come to your attention. Know nothing about the sensation other than the current direct experience of it. Without reference to thought or memory, we have no idea that the current sensation is something called a body, sitting on something called a chair, or lying on something called a floor. It is just an amorphous, borderless, tingling vibration with no well-defined shape, no edge, no age, no gender, no nationality, no weight. Ask yourself the question, what is this vibration appearing in? thought would like to say a body. But this sensation or vibration doesn't appear in a body. Our only experience of the body is itself simply this vibration. When we trace back the vibration in order to find its location, we don't find that it is located in something called a solid body. What do we find? We don't find anything. That is, we don't find anything. The place at which this vibration is appearing is completely empty, open, transparent. Even those words seem to give it subtle qualities that it doesn't really have. It is an absence that is not only the absence of an object, but even the absence of all these qualifying adjectives. Open, empty, transparent. We simply cannot go there with thought. And yet, at the same time, it is our experience that this vibration is appearing in this unnameable, indescribable, utterly intimate emptiness. This emptiness is sometimes described in the spiritual literature as a space-like presence. And that is a valid concept in the early stages of this exploration. But go beyond even that space-like quality. Ask yourself the question, how large is this vibration? Can we measure its size? Is it a centimeter wide? A meter wide? 10 meters wide? We cannot say. Why can we not say? Because this vibration doesn't have a dimension. It is not appearing in space. It is appearing in dimensionless emptiness. In fact, we cannot even say that it's appearing in this dimensionless emptiness, because that immediately gives it a spatial quality. Don't try to think about this. It is not possible to think about something that has no dimensions. That is why Shantananda Saraswati said, real thinkers don't think. That is, if we really want to think about the nature of reality or the reality of our experience, thinking will bring itself naturally, effortlessly, to an end. See that this vibration completely fills the emptiness. There is no part of the emptiness where the vibration is not present. And the emptiness pervades and saturates the vibration. Don't try to think about this. We are exploring experience in a way that is beyond the reach of thought. It can only be experienced. It cannot be thought about. When viewed from the outside, this vibration that we once called the body seems to be a temporary, limited object, appearing in time and space. When viewed from the inside, the only substance present in this vibration is eternal, infinite emptiness. Allow the vibration and the emptiness to mix so completely with one another that we cannot tell them apart. If a feeling of boredom, frustration, or irritation arises, see that all that is happening is that this emptiness is taking the form of a thought and feeling, and as such, entering the doorway back into the mind and going outwards towards an object. As thought proceeds through the doorway, it comes out of eternity into time. All that the thought is trying to do in time is to avoid the emptiness of eternity. In fact, the reason that thought is seeking an object is in order to merge with that object and, as such, to cease being thought. In other words, thought is seeking to bring itself to an end. It is seeking its own eternity, but it is seeking it in the wrong direction. It is seeking it in objects. Thought is proceeding from the feeling of boredom, frustration, or irritation, trying to relieve the discomfort of these feelings in objective experience. It is seeking eternity in time. gently turn the seeking thought around. Trace it back through the doorway at the back of the mind and return it to its source in eternity. Let your eyes open again and allow the appearance of space and the objects within it to come into existence. But don't let the appearance persuade you to believe or feel that this dimensionless presence has left itself or come in contact with anything other than itself. We don't have to reject the appearance of space and objects, but rather feel that they are saturated, permeated with this emptiness. They are a modulation of this emptiness itself. If we find that the appearance of space and objects is too persuasive or overwhelming, simply trace back the experience of seeing to its source. See that the body we once imagined ourselves to be is not in the picture. If we trace seeing back to its source, there is just a vast emptiness at its origin. We fall through the eyes into this emptiness. It's like the wardrobe in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. That is a magical portal into an enchanted forest. We trace back the experience of seeing to what we thought was something called my eyes or my head. But at the moment we touch that place, we fall into a new dimension. We fall into eternity. Now, just allow your attention to range freely over the entire realm of experience. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, sights, sounds. See that we never leave this emptiness. This emptiness never leaves itself. All experience is saturated in this dimensionless presence. Nothing can harm it. Nothing can destroy it. Nothing can alter it. And yet, it is completely vulnerable. It is completely open. It is completely without resistance. This dimensionless emptiness modulates itself in the form of the fullness of all experience. In this approach, meditation is not an activity. It is not a manipulation of our experience. It is not something we start doing or stop doing with the mind. It is first to recognize the nature of experience, and then simply to abide as that, in the midst of all experience. As such, in this approach there is no distinction between meditation and life. And now we just go about our day as normal. But don't be persuaded by appearances to believe or feel that something called meditation has come to an end. True meditation doesn't start and it doesn't end. Only this dimensionless emptiness assumes new names and forms. From the outside, experience is ever-changing. From the inside, never changing. Thank you.